Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're doing something a little bit different. We are looking at something you probably ignore 100 times a day.
Oh, at least 100 times.
Right. You walk past it, you step on it, you might even eat it for lunch without a second thought.
And honestly, most of the time we just treat it like wallpaper. It's just the green background to our lives, you know?
Exactly, yeah. We are talking about the plant kingdom. And look, before you roll your eyes and think, okay, I did this in primary school, photosynthesis roots, sheet's boring. Let me stop you right there.
Because that is exactly what we thought too.
Totally. That was my first reaction when I saw the source material for today. We have this text called The Architecture and Classification of the Plant World, which is technically from a Class 6 science curriculum.
Which sounds incredibly dry. It sounds like a list of definitions to memorize for a quiz.
But it isn't, or at least the way we are going to look at it today isn't, because we aren't just reading a textbook. We have a guide.
Right, we have the Arum factor.
Yes, the ARM factor. This is easily my favorite part of this deep dive. Included in our source material are the actual personal scribbled notes, drawings, and heavy exclamation marks of a student named Arum who is actively working through this material.
It completely changes the whole dynamic of the text. Because usually we look at science as this polished, finished thing.
Yeah, like it's handed down from a mountain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Arum's notes remind us that science is actually about confusion and curiosity.
Hmm.
And then that sudden moment where you go, oh, wait, that's how it works.
He's so skeptical, too. He's making jokes in the margins. He's drawing these little diagrams that actually make way more sense than the official textbook ones.
And that is exactly the energy we want to bring today. We want to move beyond simply naming the parts of a plant, which is, what we all did in school, and instead understand how they work as a living system.
Right. We want to answer the why. Why does a tree bother building a massive trunk when a pumpkin just sprawls out on the ground?
Why do some roots look like carrots while others look like a tangled mess of hair?
Why do some leaves literally turn into spikes?
It's all about evolutionary engineering. Every single thing you see out there in your garden is a solution to a problem.
It's a cost-benefit analysis happening in biological time. I mean, a plant doesn't have a brain, but it makes decisions.
It decides where to spend its energy. Does it build a wall? Does it build a solar panel? Does it build a weapon?
So forget the boring biology class. Let's look at the green world the way ARM does, as a series of engineering challenges that needed solving. And the first challenge, the very first thing we have to do to make sense of this chaos is the great sort.
Classification. Because you just walk into a forest or a park, it is total chaos.
It really is.
You have tall things,
Yeah.
short things, creeping things living in water. It feels completely random, but it's not.
The source text starts with the absolute simplest binary split. It's the first question you ask when you look at a plant.
Does it have flowers or does it not?
Flowering versus non-flowering. It seems almost too simple, right? But it divides the world in half.
It really does. On one side, you have the flowering plants.
Yeah.
These are the ones we interact with most. The text lists the rose, the marigold, and the tomato.
Okay, let's pause on the tomato, because I feel like this is a common tripping point. I don't think of a tomato plant as a flower. I think of it as food
Right. But biologically, where does that tomato come from?
from the plant.
From a flower on the plant. If you've ever grown tomatoes, you know you get these little yellow flowers first. If those flowers don't get pollinated, you do not get the tomato. The tomato is the food. So yes, it is very much a flowering plant.
And then on the other side.
The non-flowering plants, these are the really ancient ones. Ferns, mosses, liverworts, they reproduce differently.
They don't have seeds, right?
Well, they don't produce seeds enclosed in a fruit. They usually use spores. They're basically playing by an older set of rules.
But the text moves quickly past that binary into something that I think is much more useful for us when we are actually looking at our backyard. It classifies plants based on their growth habit.
Basically, their architecture.
Yeah, their architecture. We have three main tiers here: herbs, shrubs, and trees.
And we need to be careful here because herb is a loaded word.
Yeah, when I hear herb, I think basil oregano thyme. I think of my spice rack.
Exactly. But in botanical terms, as the source defines it, an herb isn't about flavor at all. It's about structure. It is the economy class of the plant world.
Economy class. I love that.
Think about the investment. The text defines an herb as a small plant with a green, tender stem.
Tender is the key word the source highlights there. Aram circled that one heavily.
Tender means it is not wood. It's flexible. It's green. Think about a wheat plant or a tomato plant or even a paddy plant. These plants aren't building permanent hard structures. They are built for speed.
So why be tender? What is the actual advantage of that?
Speed and cost. If you are a wheat plant, you have a very short mission. You need to sprout, grow leaves, capture sunlight, make seeds, and then you die.
All in one season.
Right. So do you want to waste massive amounts of energy and time building a hard, woody trunk using complex chemicals like lignin?
No, that would be a total waste of resources. You want to put all your energy into the seeds.
Exactly. So they rely on a completely different mechanism to stand up. They rely on turgor pressure.
Which is basically water pressure,
Yeah,
right?
hydraulic pressure.
Yeah.
The cells are full of water pushing outwards, which keeps the stem stiff. It's a hydraulic system.
Which completely explains why if I forget to water my tomato plant for like one day, it looks like a tragedy. It just flops over.
Right. It loses the water pressure and the entire structure collapses. It doesn't have a skeleton. It has a water balloon system.
Okay, so that's the herb. Quick, cheap, hydraulic. Moving up the ladder, we have the shrub. And I feel like the shrub is the middle child of the plant world.
It really is the middle management. A shrub is medium height. The stem is hard, so it's woodier than an herb, but the text makes a very specific point. The stem is not thick, and the defining characteristic is the branching.
Yeah, the text says branches arise near the base of the stem.
Think of a rose bush or a lemon plant. You don't have one single trunk going up 5 feet and then branching out. You have a cluster of stems coming right out of the ground. It's a hedge strategy.
Why do that, though? Why not just commit to being a tree?
Resilience.
Oh, okay.
If a tree loses its trunk, it's game over. The plant dies. But if a shrub loses a branch, it has 5 others right there. It's a decentralized approach to destruction.
It's safer in a way.
Much safer. You don't get as tall, you don't dominate the skyline, but you are a lot harder to kill.
And then finally we have the heavyweights, the trees.
The trees. Mango, neem, oak. These are the skyscrapers.
The text defines them as tall with hard, thick brown stems called trunks. And unlike the shrub, they branch high up.
This is the high investment, high reward strategy. A tree is investing huge amounts of sugar energy it made from sunlight to build wood. And wood is incredibly expensive to make. It's cellulose and lignin. It's concrete and steel.
But the reward is?
Sunlight. Pure, unadulterated sunlight. By building that trunk, you get your leaves, your solar panels way up above the herbs and the shrubs. You win the competition for light. You cast a shadow on all your competitors.
But the cost is you have to maintain that structure year after year after year.
Exactly. It's a huge upkeep cost.
It's amazing to think about it that way. When you look at a forest, you're actually looking at different economic strategies. The herb is like a startup. Move fast, break things, exit quickly. The tree is a legacy corporation. Massive infrastructure, long-term planning, dominant market share.
That is a perfect analogy. And the shrub is the family business. Stable, resilient, sticking to the middle ground.
But wait, the text points out a huge problem here. Aram actually circled this in his notes too. What happens if a plant wants to get big? It wants the massive surface area, but it absolutely doesn't want to pay the construction cost of a trunk.
The weak stem dilemma. This is where the engineering gets super creative. The text identifies 2 categories for these specific plants, creepers and climbers.
Aram literally wrote cheaters in the margin next to these.
And honestly, he's not wrong. They are totally bypassing the standard rules. Let's look at the creeper first. Pumpkin, watermelon, strawberry. These plants have stems that are just too weak to stand upright, so what do?
They just give up on verticality entirely. They sprawl.
They choose horizontal dominance. A pumpkin plant basically says, I'm not going to fight you for the sky, I'm going to take over the ground. By creeping along the soil, they can spread their leaves out over a huge area to catch sun, but they don't have to build a single inch of wood to support it. The ground supports them.
It's incredibly smart, but it has a flaw. You can get stepped on easily, and you're constantly competing with the grass.
True. Which brings us to the climber. The climber is the ultimate hacker.
The text lists the money plant, the pea plant, and the grapevine for this one.
These plants want the height of a tree. They want to get to the penthouse suite, but they refuse to build the elevator.
So they just use someone else's elevator.
Precisely. They are structural parasites. Now, not biological parasites. They aren't stealing food or water, but they are stealing support. They use tendrils or hooks or sticky pads to grab onto a wall, a fence, or another tree.
It's pure efficiency. I mean, why build a building when you can just climb the one next door?
It allows a vine to grow incredibly fast. Think about it. All that energy the tree puts into making dense wood. The vine puts that exact same energy into pure length. That's why kudzu or ivy can take over a building so terrifyingly fast they aren't burdened by their own weight.
Now, before we move on, the text mentions a few outliers, sort of another category.
Right, because nature hates a perfect vacuum. You have moss, which is primitive. It never really figured out how to move water well internally, so it has to stay small and damp.
Yeah.
You have grass, which is its own weird carpet-like beast. And you have aquatic plants like water lilies or hydrilla.
It just shows that if there is a niche, a wet rock, upon a crack in the sidewalk, a plant has engineered a way to live there.
Absolutely. So we've looked at the visible part, the shoot system. But to really understand the machine, we have to go down. We have to go into the basement.
Part 2, the underground network, the roots.
The source text makes a very fundamental split here. The plant is really two distinct worlds, the shoot above ground and the root below ground. And honestly, the root system is like the back-end server of the internet. We never ever see it, but if it goes down, everything stops.
The text gives us two primary jobs for the roots: anchoring and absorption.
Anchoring is pretty obvious. It keeps the plant from blowing away in the wind. But absorption, that is the real magic.
To prove this, the source describes activity 2. This is the two weeds experiment. And I love a good DIY science experiment.
Let's walk through it because the implications are actually huge.
Yeah.
You go to a garden and you dig up 2 weeds of the same kind. Let's say 2 dandelions.
Okay, I've got my 2 weeds.
For weed A, you act nicely. You keep the roots entirely intact. For weed B, you act like a villain. You take scissors and you chop the roots off completely. You just have a stem.
Then I replant them both in good soil and I water them.
Now, play devil's advocate for a second. You're watering the soil. Weed B is sitting right there in wet soil. Why can't it just drink? Why can't the bottom of the stem just soak up the water like a sponge?
That is a genuinely good question. I mean, if I put a paper towel in a cup of water, it soaks it right up.
But a plant stem isn't a paper towel. It is covered in a cuticle, a waxy layer, specifically designed to keep water in. It is completely sealed. The only entry doors for water are the microscopic root hairs on the actual roots.
So weed bee is effectively in a desert even though it's sitting in a mud puddle.
Exactly. And the result, as the text notes, is that weed bee dies very quickly. It wilts and collapses. It proves that the root isn't just a foot to stand on, it's the mouth.
Now here is where Aram gets really excited in the notes. Because just like we had different stem types, we have different root architectures. We have the taproot and the fibrous root.
The taproot is the classic design. Think of a carrot or a beet, but thinner. One main thick primary root driving straight vertically down.
A really deep anchor.
Yes. And from that main line, smaller lateral roots branch off. The text lists the rose, the pea, and the gram plants as having taproots.
And then the alternative?
The fibrous root. This is what you see in grass or wheat or maize. There's no main captain root. It's a committee.
Huh? A committee of roots. I like that.
It really is. It's a tuft of roots, all roughly about the same size, exploding right from the base of the stem. It looks like a messy beard.
So why the difference? Why would nature design two completely different systems for the exact same job?
Think about the environment. A taproot like the rose is great for going deep to find water tables that are far underground. It's also a fantastic anchor for a tall, heavy plant.
Okay, that makes sense.
But a fibrous root like grass is a surface net. It doesn't go deep, but it spreads incredibly wide. It's designed to catch every single drop of light rain before it can sink deep into the soil. And structurally, it holds the topsoil together perfectly. That's why grass is so good at preventing erosion. It literally binds the earth in a net.
It's the difference between a piling driven down into the bedrock and a wide, flat, concrete slab foundation. Different engineering for different situations.
Precisely. Now, I want you to hold that thought about tap versus fibrous roots. Keep that in your back pocket, because later we are going to connect that to the leaves in a way that is just going to blow your mind.
Oh, I can't wait for that. But first, we have to talk about when roots go rogue. Root modifications.
Nature's hacks. Sometimes the standard anchor and absorb job just isn't enough. The plant needs more, so the root takes on a side hustle.
And the first hustle is the pantry.
Food storage. We mentioned the carrot earlier. Think about what a carrot actually is. It is a taproot. But the plant has decided I need to save up energy for a rainy day or a cold winter. So it packs that root completely full of starch and sugar.
It just swells up.
It becomes a biological battery, a dedicated storage tank. We humans just happen to rob that bank. When you eat a carrot or a radish or a beetroot, you are eating the plant's emergency savings account.
Which makes me feel slightly guilty about my salad, to be honest. Slightly.
Survival of the fittest, my friend.
Then we have roots acting as architectural bracing. The text mentions prop roots.
If you've ever seen a banyan tree, you've definitely seen this. The banyan has these massive, heavy horizontal branches. They stretch out so far They are so heavy they should theoretically just snap right off.
So the tree drops roots from the branches.
Yes, roots come right out of the branch, hang straight down in the empty air, hit the soil, and then thicken into hard wood. They become literal pillars. It's exactly like putting a prop under a sagging roof. The tree is building its own support columns as it expands.
That is just incredible engineering. And then the text also mentions stilt roots for maize and sugarcane.
Similar concept, but for tall, thin plants instead of wide ones. Maize grows very tall, very fast, but has a super thin stem. It's wobbly. So roots come out of the lower stem, actually above the ground, and shoot diagonally down into the soil.
Like the guy wires on a camping tent.
Exactly. Or the support cables on a radio tower. They brace the plant against the wind from all sides.
It just shows the insane versatility of plant tissue. A root can be an anchor, a straw, a pantry, a pillar, or a guy wire.
Whatever the specific survival situation demands, it adapts.
All right, let's move up from the basement. Let's talk about the highway system. Part 3. The stem.
The stem is the backbone. Structurally, the text divides it into two very simple things: nodes and internodes.
Simple definitions here for everyone. A node is the specific spot where a leaf or a branch comes out. The internode is simply the empty space between them.
It sounds like boring trivia, but remembering what a node is will be absolutely crucial in a minute when we try to solve the mystery of the potato.
The potato mystery. We are definitely getting there. But first, functions. The stem supports the plant, holding the leaves up to the sun. But its real main job is transportation.
It is the plumbing. It moves water and minerals up from the roots, and it moves food, the sugar, down from the leaves. It's a two-way highway system.
The text suggests another experiment here, the red ink experiment.
This is a classic visual. You take a white flower, like a white carnation or a balsam plant. You put the stem in a glass of water, but you dye the water deep red with ink.
And then you just wait.
After a few hours, you look at the white petals. You will actually see red streaks appearing in the petals.
The plant is drinking the red ink.
Yes, and the text says if you cut the stem horizontally right across the tress, you will see little red dots in a circle. Those are the pipes the xylem sealed with a red dye. It visually proves that the stem isn't solid wood. It's a bundle of tiny tubes. It's essentially fiber optic cabling for water.
Now, just like roots, stems can also suffer from identity crises. Stem modifications?
We already mentioned the climbers. In plants like the grapevine, the stem modifies into tendrils. These are those little spring-like coils.
With an old telephone cord.
Exactly. And these are fascinating. They are incredibly touch-sensitive. When a tendril brushes against a wire or a branch, it reacts by curling right around it. It ties a physical knot. That's a modified stem doing the job of a human hand.
But now we really have to talk about the potato.
The big one. The great debate.
The text lists underground stems. It says ginger potato and onion are actually stems, not roots.
And this is exactly where everyone gets confused.
Yeah.
Because we just said sweet potato is a root and carrot is a root. But a regular baking potato is a stem. I mean, they live in the exact same dirt. They look practically identical.
Aram literally wrote 3 massive question marks in his notes here. It defies logic.
It defies visual logic, but not botanical logic. Here is the detective work. Look at a normal potato. What do you see on the skin?
Dirt? And maybe some little dimples.
Those dimples, we call them eyes.
Yeah.
If you leave that potato in the back of your pantry for 2 months, what happens to it?
It starts growing alien tentacles. It sprouts.
It sprouts shoots. It grows little tiny leaves. Now ask yourself, do roots have buds that sprout leaves?
No roots, just branch into other smaller roots.
Exactly. Those eyes on the potato are actually nodes. Remember, we define nodes as the specific place on a stem where leaves and branches come from. The potato has nodes. Therefore, the potato is a stem. It is just a stem that happens to grow underground and swell up massively to store food.
So when I'm eating a French fry, I'm eating a stem. But when I'm eating a sweet potato fry, I'm eating a root.
Correct. Because the sweet potato has no nodes, it has no eyes, it cannot sprout leaves from its body. It is a root tuber. The regular potato is a stem tuber.
That is a brilliant cocktail party fact if I ever heard one. You know, actually, this fry is a stem.
You'll definitely be the life of the party, I'm sure of it.
Or I'll just be asked to leave, probably the latter. Now there's one more stem modification that is pretty extreme. The cactus.
Ah, yes. The ultimate desert survivor.
Yeah.
In a cactus, the stem literally takes over everything.
Because usually leaves do the photosynthesis.
Usually, yes. But in the harsh desert, big flat leaves are a massive liability. They lose way too much water to the sun. So the cactus drops the leaves entirely, and we'll see where they went in just a minute. The stem becomes thick, fleshy, and green. It stores the water inside, and it does all the photosynthesis on the outside.
The backbone basically becomes both the kitchen and the canteen.
Insanely efficient.
Speaking of kitchens, let's move to the engine room of the plant. Part 4. The leaf.
The text actually calls it the food factory, or the kitchen.
Structurally, we have the lamina, which is the flat green part. We have the petiole, which is the little stalk attaching it. And we have the veins.
The veins act as the skeleton to hold it flat, and the transport lines to move the sugar out. Now, are you ready for that Sherlock Holmes moment I promised?
I am absolutely ready.
Remember we talked about taproots versus fibrous roots earlier, and I said there was a secret connection.
Yes. Arham has a note here with big exclamation marks. The text asks, is there a relationship between the type of roots and the type of leaf of venation?
Okay, so let's define the venation first. You have parallel venation. This is where the veins in the leaf run side by side in perfectly straight lines. Think of a big banana leaf or just a single blade of grass.
Got it. Lines.
Then you have reticulate venation. Reticulate just means net-like. There is a central midrib running down the middle, and smaller veins branch out like a complex web. Think of a maple leaf, a rose leaf, a mango leaf.
Got it.
Web. Now here's the ultimate cheat code of nature. You do not need to dig up a plant to know what its roots look like. You just look at the leaf.
Okay, lay it on me.
If the leaf has parallel venation, the straight line's the plant has fibrous roots. Always.
Like grass. Grass has straight lines in the leaves and messy fibrous roots underneath.
Exactly. And if the leaf has reticulate venation, the plant has a taproot.
Like a rose bush, webby leaves, deep, thick taproot.
It works 99% of the time. It is a fundamental deep divide in the entire plant kingdom. Botanists call them monocots, which is parallel and fibrous, and dicots, which is reticulate and tap. The Class 6 text simplifies the terminology, but the pattern recognition is absolute.
That is genuinely mind-blowing. So Arham, or literally any listener, can walk into a park, pick up a fallen leaf, look at the vein pattern, and accurately predict what is happening 3 feet underground without ever grabbing a shovel.
You can basically see through the earth. That is the true power of understanding the biological system.
I really love that. Okay, let's talk about what the leaf actually does, though. Function 1. Photosynthesis, the kitchen.
Arguably the single most important chemical reaction on planet Earth. The leaf takes sunlight, water, carbon dioxide, and chlorophyll, which is the green pigment, and it cooks them all together to make glucose.
And the byproduct of that reaction is oxygen, which is quite handy for us since we, like breathing.
Very handy indeed. Now, Arham's notes mention a specific practical test here, the iodine test.
Walk us through that.
This is how scientists prove the kitchen is actually cooking. Glucose gets stored by the plant as starch. Iodine has a very specific chemical reaction with starch. It turns from its normal brown color to a very dark blue-black.
So if you drop iodine on a fresh leaf,
it turns black because it's absolutely full of stored starch.
The text describes activity 5, which is a really clever variation of this. You take a potted plant and you tape a piece of thick black paper over just one tiny spot on a single leaf. You leave the plant out in the bright sun for a few hours.
You are essentially blindfolding that specific part of the leaf.
Then you pluck the leaf, you boil it in alcohol to get the green color out so you can see better, and you dip the whole thing in iodine. What happens?
The entire leaf turns dark black, indicating starch is present, except for the exact spot that was hiding under the black paper. That spot stays completely colorless.
Because it didn't get any sunlight.
Right. No light, no cooking, no starch. It proves definitively that light is the required fuel for the factory.
Function 2. Transpiration. I always think of this as the AC system of the plant.
It definitely is. Transpiration is simply the loss of water vapor from the leaves out into the air.
But why would a plant want to actively lose water? I thought water was the most precious resource.
It is, but you need continuous flow. Think of drinking through a straw. To get the liquid up the straw, you have to create suction at the top. Evaporation from the leaves creates that exact suction force. It physically pulls water and dissolved minerals all the way up from the roots, fighting against gravity.
And it cools the plant at the same time.
Yes, evaporative cooling. It works just like human sweat cools us down on a hot day.
The text mentions the plastic bag test to actually see this happen.
It's super simple. You tie a clear Ziploc bag around a leaky branch on a bright sunny day. You come back in an hour or two. The inside of the plastic bag will be completely covered in condensation water droplets. That is the plant literally breathing out water vapor.
Speaking of breathing, that brings us to function 3, gas exchange.
This happens through the stomata. These are tiny microscopic pores usually located on the underside of the leaf to stay out of the direct sun. They open and close like little mouths to let carbon dioxide in and let oxygen out.
Now finally we get to leaf modifications. We saw roots acting like pantries earlier and stems acting like springs. What do leaves turn into?
Well, let's go right back to our cactus. We said the thick green stem took over the photosynthesis job. So what actually happened to the original leaves?
They didn't just disappear.
No, they transformed. The sharp spines on a cactus, those needles that stick you, are actually modified leaves.
Aram calls this a 2-in-1 mechanism in his notes. I think he drew a little shield next to it.
And he is spot on. It is a brilliant dual-purpose design. Function 1 is defense. Don't eat me, I'm sharp. But function 2 is water conservation.
Explain the physics of that.
A normal leaf is broad, flat, and wide. It has a massive surface area. That means lots of stomata, lots of transpiration, lots of water loss. In the desert, that math of water loss equals death. By curling up tightly into a thin, hard spine, you reduce the surface area to almost zero. You completely stop the water loss.
So the cactus basically traded away its solar panels for a thick armor and water retention.
Exactly. And the stem just picked up the slack for the solar work. It's a perfect trade.
There is one more leaf modification that is honestly the stuff of nightmares. The insect traps.
Oh, the pitcher plant. Or the Venus flytrap.
Here, the leaf physically modifies into a specialized container or a snapping trap to catch living bugs. Why? I mean, plants eat light, they don't eat meat.
Usually, yes. But these specific plants grow in environments where the soil is terrible. It has almost no nutrients, specifically no nitrogen. They can make plenty of sugar from the sun, but they absolutely cannot build proteins without nitrogen.
So they outsource the nitrogen gathering.
They hunt for it. The leaf becomes a literal trap. It catches an insect, it dissolves the bug with digestive juices, and it absorbs the pure nitrogen. It's basically a gruesome fertilizer supplement.
It is amazing to think about. A leaf can be a flat solar panel, a sharp spine, or an actual stomach.
Evolution is endlessly resourceful.
All right, we have finally reached the final chapter, part 5, the future generation.
Flowers.
The showstoppers. But again, the text is quick to remind us flowers aren't for us. They aren't meant for human bouquets or decorations. They're functional reproductive organs. Their entire biological mission is to make seeds.
The life cycle is very clear. Bud to flower to fruit to seed to a whole new plant. That is the unbroken circle of life.
Let's do a really quick anatomy scan of a flower working from the outside in.
First, you have the sepals. These are the little green leaf-like bits right at the bottom base of the flower. They act as the bodyguards. When the flower is just a tiny bud, the sepals wrap tightly around it to protect it from weather and insects.
Then you have the petals.
The petals are the billboard. Bright, flashy colors, nice, sweet smells. This is pure advertising. Hey, bees, look over here. I have free nectar.
Then we get to the male parts, the stamen.
It looks like a long, thin stalk called the filament, with a little swollen yellow bag on top called the anther. The anther is just packed full of microscopic pollen dust.
And the female part is right in the very center, the pistil.
It kind of looks like a chemistry flask. The sticky top part is the stigma. It has to be sticky to catch the flying pollen. The long neck is the style. And the swollen round base at the bottom is the ovary.
And safely hidden inside that ovary are the ovules, the tiny bead-like structures that will become future seeds.
Right. And the whole process making it work is pollination, getting the golden dust from the male anther to the sticky female stigma.
Wind can do it, water can do it sometimes, but insects are by far the best agents. The bee lands to drink the sweet nectar, it gets totally covered in sticky pollen, it flies over to another flower, and it accidentally brushes against the sticky stigma. Bingo. Transfer complete. And once that transfer happens, the magic starts.
The flower's job is done. The petals dry up and fall off. The sepals fall off. The ovary at the base starts to swell up. It gets bigger and bigger, filling entirely with sugar and nutrients.
And the ovary ultimately becomes
the fruit. A juicy mango, a crisp apple, a red tomato. Botanically speaking, they're all just ripened, swollen ovaries.
And the little ovules inside become the hard seeds.
Ready to fall to the ground and start the whole massive process over again.
When you really lay it all out like this, from the tiny root hair drinking a drop of water, up through the xylem highway tubes, into the leaf kitchen, turning into sugar, fueling the bright flower, attracting the bee, making the fruit, it is an incredibly complex, interwoven machine.
It truly is. And it's a machine that runs completely silently without any electricity, building itself literally out of thin air, water, and sunlight.
I want to bring it back to Aram one last time before we wrap up.
Please do.
His notes, the cheaters, the 2-in-1 spines, the utter questioning of the potato's existence, they really highlight something important. We tend to think of science as just memorizing the textbook definitions of stamen and pistil to pass a test.
But that's just the vocabulary. Real science is the observation part. It's seeing the hidden pattern. Aram looked at a spiky cactus and didn't just see a random desert plant. He saw a strategic trade-off. He saw a physical mechanism designed for survival.
And that is exactly the mindset we want to leave you with today.
Absolutely. You do not need a PhD in botany to appreciate this level of engineering. You just need to stop looking at plants and start looking into them.
So here is our final provocation for you, our challenge for the week. The source text suggests going out into the yard and digging up a weed activity 2 style to look at the roots. But I'll make it even easier for you. Next time you are just standing in the produce section of the grocery store, look closely at the food.
Look at the ginger root. Look at the onion. Look at the potato.
Ask yourself, am I holding a root, a stem, or a leaf? Look closely for the nodes. Look for the evidence. Be a botanical detective in aisle 4.
And just realize that that humble onion didn't evolve just to make your salad taste good. It evolved to survive a brutal drought 50,000 years ago. You are eating an ancient survival strategy.
A survival strategy that happens to taste really great, sautéed with some garlic.
Very, very true.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today. The plant world is quiet, but it is definitely not simple.
It was a pleasure as always.
We'll see you on the next deep dive. Stay curious out there.